So normally you think when NASCAR goes to a 1.5 mile track, it's usually a mere formality, and you just want the week to get over with and move on. Especially with this race at Kansas being the week before the All-Star weekend. That was not the case though. Let's get right into it, because this race was really, and this weekend as a whole was really, it really gave us a lot to talk about. So for the Truck Series race, the big story leading up to this race was the Matt Crafton DQ being overturned. Last week he had finished 5th at Darlington, and his car failed post-race inspection because the truck ride height being too low. The truck being too low at post-race inspection, he was originally disqualified. His team decided to protest the result, and they actually got the DQ overturned. So Crafton, he regains his 5th place from Darlington, and he once again enters this race above the cut line. So crisis averted on that part. As for the race itself, stage 1, you think a lot of people said over the course of the race that it was really, really boring, and I don't understand why. Sure, it wasn't an absolute barn burner, but no, not every race has to be. Stage 1 featured a lot of slide jobs and crossover moves between Stuart Friesen and Hailie Deegan, but also between Zane Smith and Corey Heim, which will go on to be the two guys that were run 1-2 for most of the race. Corey Heim got the leg up for stage 1. After he got to the lead, he actually started logging fast laps, and he was the fastest car on the field by a wide margin by the time stage 1 ended. Like about half a second. He was posting laps that were half a second faster than the second place car Zane Smith on average. And I would have loved to see how much he could have held up if there were like no stage yellows and the race went green longer, because once Corey Heim got to the front and he got that clean air, he really got a fast long run car. But overall, not much else happened in stage 1. Chandler Smith had an issue after stage 1. He finished top 5 in the stage. He pitted twice. The broadcast said he ran out of fuel, although I think it was more of a fuel pickup issue. But the broadcast kept insisting that he had no fuel. But then, during stage 3, they said that it was like a fuel pressure, fuel pump issue. So I really don't understand. I really think that it was more of a fuel pickup issue, because if it was that they had no fuel, that they forgot to refuel the car, like, what was KBN doing? Like, what the fuck was KBN thinking? Not starting the race with like a full tank of fuel. That's just common sense. Of course, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm just gonna assume that it was like a fuel pressure problem that they had. But Chandler lost a lot during the whole ordeal, so he had an uphill climb for the rest of the race. For stage 2, once again, same old story. Corey Heim, Zane Smith. Although this time, Zane Smith gets the leg up on Corey Heim, and he wins stage 2. Ben Rhodes wins the race off pit road. And in stage 3, there is some awesome 3-wide racing on the restart. There goes 4 wide, they go 4 wide, even 5 wide. But once again, up front, as usual, Zane Smith and Corey Heim, they immediately pick off Ben Rhodes, and they stay running 1-2. And just as we are about to hit green flag pit stops, another caution happens. Corey Heim wins the race off pit road, and Carson Hocevar has an uncontrolled tire penalty. And that was a tough break, because I believe he was running in the top 10, almost like cracking the top 5. So, Carson Hocevar just cannot catch a break. On the restart, once again, Zane Smith has an amazing restart. This time he gets the leg up on Heim, even though Corey Heim was the control car. Heim falls back to 7th, and because of the dirty air, the car doesn't handle as great. He tries to overdrive it. impatient. Remember that he is a rookie. He's just a teenager. He ends up hitting the wall twice. Also some engine problems late in the race. And from there, it just went from bad to worse. He eventually was no longer a factor. I believe he also caught a tire because of hitting the wall one too many times. So, really a rough ending to what was a really promising day for this young guy. So with Corey Heim out of the way, it was not a contest anymore, as he was pretty much the only guy that could even hold a candle to Zane Smith during the race. But with 14 laps to go, the rest of the field caught a break. Dean Thompson spun out and a caution came out. No one pitted though, so it will be like a 8-lap sprint to the finish. John Hunter Nemechek was the guy to restart alongside Zane Smith. I really thought he was going to do something, potentially maybe steal a win, because John Hunter Nemechek has he doesn't look like his usual self from like his 2021 self, but for parts of the season he's looked like he's shown speed. Maybe I thought he could steal a win away from Zane Smith, but he got a slower restart, and the whole lane, he restarted on the outside lane. The whole field stacks up, and Zane Smith pulls away in basically a no contest. Just an absolute masterclass. I believe he led something like, I don't know the exact number, but I think he led something like 108 laps of the 134. Yeah, it was a 200-mile race. Just an absolute masterclass. His third win of the season in we're 8 races in, and he has won already 3 of those. He is easily the title favorite so far this season. As for other notable guys, Chandler Smith with the fuel pump, despite the fuel pump issue, he managed to rally back to 4th, being the highest finishing KBM car. Grant Enfinger finishes 3rd, back-to-back top 5s after pretty pedestrian start to his tenure with GMS, or actually his second tenure with GMS, because back in 2016 he drove a part-time schedule with them. Ty Majeski finished 2nd. He was a really sneaky good. He was sneaky good for the whole race. He had a low-key top 5 car. Of course, not many people noticed, because most of the cameras were on Zane Smith and Corey Heim throughout the whole race. But you can make an argument that Ty Majeski had if not the 3rd best car, he got a top 5 car at the absolutely. But yeah, like I said, this race just happened. I know it wasn't a barn burner by any means, but I don't feel like it was boring by any means. It had its moments for sure, especially in stage 1 and for parts of stage 3. Could argue that Zane Smith, Corey Heim hitting the wall, that slow restart for Corey Heim, you could argue that really, and him hitting the wall and then having a flat tire, that really took out the excitement, because like I said, him and Zane Smith were the 2 best cars, and the 2 guys were on a different zip code to all the other guys. But that's how racing goes sometimes. Now the Cup race was a very different beast. Once again, Gen 7 car throwing a new curveball for teams in this with this 1.5 mile tracks, and the intermediate tracks especially. And I gotta say, 1.5 mile tracks and just intermediate racing as a whole, they have been really a treat to watch this season. Darlington was a great example of that. The cars were slipping and sliding, very tough to handle, as it should be. And that trend continued at Kansas, although Kansas was really, really chaotic. Of course, once again, our good old friend that has been really bugging us the entire season, the tires. This time, the left rear tires, more specifically, that issue really reared its ugly head. Joe Logano, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher were among the guys that were involved in practice crashes due to blown left rear tires. Goodyear spoke up about it. I know they said something like aero changes, new suspension of the Gen 7 car is causing more tire blowouts. They also said that teams should be more cautious and they should manage that. Which, in my opinion, that's just absolute bullshit. I'm sorry. I think that Goodyear should just work with the teams fixing tire issues instead of mostly having the teams figure it out by themselves, because we're still having the same old issues that we have seen since the Daytona 500, since the second week of the season at Fontana. I think it's about time that Goodyear just puts their foot in and starts working with NASCAR more directly in order for them to reach a solution to this problem, because throughout the first now 13 races of the season, that's a little more than a third of the season. We're almost like 13 of 36 races. We have seen half of those races basically have been a tire failure of some sort has taken out a good driver, whether it be by practice, qualifying, or the race. It's always about tires, and tires. Now, I'm just saying, Goodyear's exclusive contract with NASCAR expires after this season. Now, again, I'm not implying that Goodyear will stop being the official tire of NASCAR. I eventually think a new deal will be worked out on both parties, but again, I'm just saying, maybe this next contract will be more on the shorter term. It's kind of shocking, too, that NASCAR and Goodyear, they haven't worked the deal out yet, because usually big contracts like this, they are negotiated like 1 or 2 years before like the previous contract expires. It's like a contract extension. But the fact that Goodyear's contract expires after this season and they haven't worked out a deal yet, like, I don't know what's keeping both sides from reaching an agreement, but this is just a rumor. Maybe Goodyear is giving up on NASCAR. NASCAR might, start looking for another tire supplier. Now, a lot of people are saying that this might lead to like a third tire war. If you remember the tire wars between Goodyear and Hoosier back in the late 80s and mid 90s, which is the last thing that I really want to see, because the effects of a tire war, not just in NASCAR but in any forms of auto racing, teams will usually go for the faster tire over the safer tire, because winning takes priority over safety. That's just how people in the racing industry are. But the last thing I want is for a tire war to go out. So if for some reason Goodyear decides not to renew their contract with NASCAR, NASCAR should find a new tire manufacturer to become like the exclusive tire of NASCAR. Seeing Hoosier being thrown around, because Hoosier had been the tire of ARCA until 2015, but that question is still up in the air. If I were a betting man, I still think that Goodyear and NASCAR, they're going to work out a deal, but the fact that it's taking so long, it's taking so long and the deal expires this year, no new deal has been made. Also, the fact that I haven't seen much competition on NASCAR's side, it really concerns me a little bit. Maybe Goodyear might be giving up on NASCAR and all, but again, maybe I'm just overreacting. Anyways, Christopher Bell started a race on the pole. Once again, he's looked very fast on this. Something I noticed is Christopher Bell has looked very fast on this like intermediate tracks. Has gotten has put together a lot of good runs, and he's also on a little bit of a hot streak. Now, as you'll see later, after this race, he got I think he finished in the top 5 too. I think he finished around 4th or 5th, I believe. Yeah. He actually got into up to 10th in the points. So you know, really great. Really nice little streak, especially since I believe he was sitting outside the top 20 after like race 5 or 6 of the season. Really nice bounce back for Christopher Bell, especially with you know, the playoff bubble getting crowded now. Since again a new driver won today, so now there's like 11 different winners now, and the playoff bubble is getting even more crowded. If Christopher Bell can make it, can point his way into the playoffs without winning a race, I think that's gonna be really impressive, in my opinion. Now, I still think he's gonna win a race, because if he doesn't, then it's gonna be eliminated. But still, anyways, Chase Briscoe spins on the grass on lap 9. Christopher Bell, he led the first couple of laps. There was a caution. Chase Briscoe spinning to the grass. No damage. And this is another thing I like about these new Gen 7 cars. When they spin to the grass, there is no damage. See what I mean? You see what I mean? There is no need to turn the grass, to take all of the grass and replace it with turf. There is no need. All it took was a simple design change. Removing the splitter, removing the ground level splitter, and replacing it with a step splitter on this Gen 7 cars. It's just what a difference it makes. Because if this was like the old Gen 6 cars, and especially since it rained this morning, on Sunday morning at Kansas, before the race, so the grass was a little bit muddy. The fact that Chase Briscoe, if this was like the old gens, like the previous model, like the Gen 6 cars, Briscoe would have been out of the race right there and then, because that split would have dug into the wet grass, and it would have just killed the car, literally. So anyways, on the restart, Tyler Reddick gets the jump, and he starts pulling away. Kyle Larson eventually chases him down and passes him. The competition caution comes out. I don't know if it was a competition caution, because you never know with NASCAR. NASCAR, they just love throwing their competition cautions. Actually, no. There was no competition caution, actually, which is a good thing. You'd think NASCAR would have thrown a competition caution for the rain earlier this morning, but no. Not this time, thank goodness. It was for a spin. I believe it was by BJ McLeod's spin. Before they lapped Joe Logano. And Logano was actually running some horrible lap times to start the race. He was battling for 30th with JJ Yeley on a Rickwar racing car. That's just how bad Logano was to start off the race. The pit stops, and this is another thing that throughout the race I noticed. Pit road was really messy. Like the pit crews, for some reason, they were really, really messy. A slow stop by Kyle Larson that drops him back to 10th. Denny Hamlin, Austin Cindric, and Austin Dillon got penalized. And Justin Haley got a double whammy because coming off of his pit service, the wheel comes off the car. And it turns out that he had some leftover gas from when he got fuel on the tank. It looks like some of that got into the wheel, and it started out a fire. So Justin Haley got a loose wheel, which means a 4-week suspension for his crew chief. And I believe that's also the second time his crew chief, Trent Owens, has been suspended because, if I recall correctly, Daytona 500, I don't know if it was the Daytona 500, but I believe Justin Haley, the 31 car, he also had a tire come off his car. I believe it was in the Daytona 500 as well. Yeah, so yeah, once again, we have a repeat offender this season for tire failures. That's another 4-week suspension for Trent Owens, and also really a double whammy for Justin Haley. And his race pretty much went downhill from there. He ended up ending his day in the garage on a DNF, unfortunately. So anyways, Tyler Reddick had a slow restart, despite him, leading and starting on the front row. Christopher Bell retakes the lead, and then another caution comes out. Daniel Suarez caught a left rear tire while running fourth. And this caution actually happened, and I'm going to say this because this was like a pattern throughout the race. The left rear tires, they usually lasted like 25 to 30 laps. The green flag runs usually lasted from 25 to 30 laps. And then a caution came out usually because somebody blew a left rear tire like 25 to 30 laps into the run. Like the average lifespan of that left rear tire because of the pressure and teams not being able to figure it out, it was 25 to 30 laps. So Daniel Suarez was the first victim, or one of the first two victims to fall to the left rear tire. And I say two because Christopher Bell, under caution, also blew a left rear tire. So we have 25 lap old tires. Just to reiterate, 25 lap old tires, and we already have 2 left rear flats. Again, this is the same issue we saw in practice. So on the restart, Corey LaJoie, Ricky Stenhouse, and Austin Dillon stay out. Eric Jones took 2 tires, and everybody else took 4. I believe on the race off pit road, Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain were the first 2 guys that took 2 tires. And because of that, the field stacked up. There was a 3-4 wide madness. Everybody jockeying for position. Eventually, Kyle Busch and Ross Chastain emerge as the top 2. And Kyle Busch pulls away and smooth sailing wins stage 1. But once again, as per usual, the leader always has a slow stop. Kyle Busch loses the race off pit road, loses a bunch of spots, and Chase Elliott takes the lead. However, he wouldn't hold it on for long because Chase Elliott got a speeding penalty, I believe. Also, Hamlin got another penalty again because nothing can go right for him this season. Bubba Wallace and Daniel Suarez also have penalties, and especially for Bubba, he really had his pit crew really gave him a really tough time. And when I look at the stats, on average, the 2311 pit crew, like when it comes to like especially yellow flag pit stops, they are one of the worst pit crews in terms of how many positions they cost Bubba on the track. In terms of how much track position they lose on the track, the 2311 pit crew is one of the worst. I really cannot. It's really a miracle that Bubba managed to walk away with a top 10 because he had a top 5 car. Toyota as a whole, they came out to play in this race. Like JGR 2311, if everything went right for them, they could have ended like on the top 6 spots, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because that's just how fast they felt. But anyways, the wackiest moment of the race by far. Harvick had his tire issues, but the wackiest moment by far of the race, and the most like what the fuck moment of the season that we're gonna look back on when this year is all said and done. Eric Jones, the right rear tire wouldn't come out during pit stops. The right rear tire wouldn't come out. So what they did was they put 3 tires. And they left that right rear tire as is. They didn't change it because they didn't want to risk, Jones getting a lap down. So So Eric Jones, his pit crew basically, instead of a 4-tire change, they did a 3-tire change on Jones's car. And I'm saying that because his story is not over yet. So on the restart, William Byron makes an amazing 3-wide move for the lead, and he goes smooth sailing. But 30 laps later, once again, that left rear tire jinx comes back, and this time, once again, it hits the leader. This race, now that I noticed, it was kind of a leader jinx because either by a slow stop on pit road, or because a blown tire, or because they got a flat left rear tire, the leader just couldn't seem to get a good run, couldn't seem to get to hold the lead, especially for like the first half of the race, because in the second half things kind of evened out. But his left rear tire blew up. Tyler Reddick also had a blown left rear tire. So once again, 2 guys, just like in stage 1 with Christopher Bell and Suarez, 2 more guys were affected by this. However, these guys didn't get as lucky of a break because there was no caution. And these guys had to nurse it back to pit road. And you know for a fact they were going to lose, like, not just 1 lap. They were going to lose 2, potentially 3 laps. I know that Tyler Reddick came out 2 laps down. Byron came out like 1 lap down, but he eventually got the free pass. But he was a non-factor. I believe he finished like mid-pack in 16th. I know that because I picked them to win this race. No, I thought he was gonna be. I thought, because after getting screwed out of, I didn't think he was gonna win last week at Darlington, but after what Logano did to him, I thought Byron was gonna go out with a vengeance. It was gonna be like his coming out party, and he was gonna dominate and win. Not really dominate, but lead a bunch of laps and win. It looked to be that way in stage 2 until that flat tire happened. But yeah, during green flag pit stops, Harvick spun out coming off of pit road. In the middle of green flag pit stops, he spun out in a very similar way to how Hamlin spun out in Las Vegas. The only difference is that Harvick was able to continue, whereas Hamlin, his car was stalled because he broke the Dan transmission by downshifting. That didn't happen to Harvick, thank goodness. But yeah, this caution was really lengthy because of all of the scoring issues, because they needed to figure out scoring. NASCAR, it took a good like 10 to 15 laps for NASCAR to figure it out. But in the meantime, Eric Jones, his tire issues got worse. Because by that point, the right rear tire was really worn out. And, it's a really lucky, Eric Jones is really lucky that it was the right rear tire and not the left rear tire. Because if this issue happened on his left rear tire, he would have been toast. There is no, especially with all of the issues that have been happening with left rear tires all race long, if Eric Jones's pit crew couldn't get like the left rear tire off of him, that would have been an absolute tragedy. They could have just called it a DNF right there. But fortunately, the team persevered. They took a good 10 to 15 minutes to get off the tire. The 43 crew, they reached deep into their back. Nothing works. Eventually, they get the nut off, and it's a huge relief. Pause. But yeah, like I said, that's definitely another one of those what the fuck moments this season. And it really provided for some good entertainment, because a lot of people thought that they were waiting for Eric Jones, the tire issue, to be fixed for the race to get restarted. But no, they were just trying to get the scoring fixed. But, all of this like wackiness with Eric Jones and the tire, it provided for some really good entertainment. Also, Kurt Busch was also complaining of a tire vibration during the yellow flag. I said Kurt Busch because he was the guy that was leading the race at the moment. Fortunately, he didn't have a tire go down. As a matter of fact, he didn't have any tire go down for that matter. Fortunately, he restarts. Kurt Busch is the leader, and with Kyle Busch in second. Once again, the Busch brothers 1-2. The race of stage 2 goes green, but it's actually like a 35 lap green flag run to end stage 2. So you know for a fact something's bound to happen. A left rear tire is gonna blow up. It's just a matter of time, and it did. With 2 laps to go, Martin Truex Jr. he was running in the top 5. He has a flat tire, and pit road was closed. So his crew chief, James Small, he told Truex to stay on the track and nurse that thing home so they could change the tire back on pit road. Now, I don't remember exactly if Truex he lost a lap. I don't exactly remember if he did. But if he didn't, then he was pretty close to losing a lap. I know that. But anyways, Kurt Busch wins the race of pit road, and Kyle Busch is busted for speeding. Now, Kurt Busch having his own 2311 pit crew. To be fair to the 2311 pit crew, they did a great job with Kurt Busch because they're usually like giving like bad pit stops to both of their drivers. Usually the guy that gets screwed over the most is Bubba and not Kurt, but Kurt Busch's pit crew has had his fair share of stupid mistakes that have cost Kurt Busch precious spots. This time though, Kurt Busch is a flawless pit stop. He wins the race off pit road. It's his brother Kyle actually who gets busted for speeding on pit road. So now Kurt Busch, he has to do battle on the restart with another Kyle. This time his former teammate Kyle Larson. And Larson actually gave him an amazing battle. He goes up to him, he attempts a slide job, but then Larson misses. He gets loose, almost pins, and he saves it. That was an amazing save by that was Colton Herta-esque. If you remember, like in that same weekend in the Indianapolis Grand Prix, Colton Herta, which was run on wet conditions, by the way. Colton Herta just had an amazing save in IndyCar that same weekend. Larson also had an amazing save in NASCAR. So just an amazing wheelman, just Larson doing Larson things. A similar thing happened between Alex Bowman and Austin Cindric, but Fox never showed the replay, unfortunately. Like the booth, Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, and Jamie McMurray, who was in the booth, by the way. We're gonna talk about him later. They were talking about how like Alex Bowman and Austin Cindric, Cindric's car was sideways and he saved it. I figured they would eventually show the replay, but they never did, and they just kept talking about it like it was shown on TV, but we never really saw it. We saw the Larson slide job, and the broadcast, they drew comparisons to the Cindric save that we never got to see, which, again, I was a little pissed off by that, but, at this point I'm convinced that Fox is losing or has lost interest in NASCAR. But, outside from the pit stops, 2311 finally showed up with actually legit speed on a 1.5 mile track. This is the best race I've seen out of them. Kurt Busch and Bubba Wallace, they had both top 5 cars. Toyota as a whole came to play, like I said. Chase Elliott had another left rear tire, of course, because, left rear tires gotta rear their ugly heads again. And also another thing I noticed was that most of the tire failures have been on Chevrolets. Like on the Chevy guys like Daniel Suarez, William Byron, Tyler Reddick. There have been a few Toyota guys too, like Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., but it's mostly been like the Chevrolet guys. The Ford guys, for the most part, they were safe from any left rear tires. I don't think there were any Ford guys that had any problems with the left rear tire during the race. But it's also pretty ironic in me saying that because Ford was a total no-show in this race. The highest finishing Ford in this race was Austin Cindric in 11th. Ryan Blaney, in my opinion, he was the best Ford all race long. He finished right behind him in 12th. But yeah, this was basically Joe Gibbs Racing, 23-11, and a little bit of Kyle Larson. This race was dominated by Toyota as a whole, especially in the later stages of the race. So like I said, once again, like 30 laps into the green flag run, Chase Elliott blows another left rear tire, caution comes out, and Bubba Wallace's pit crew just screws him over, just does him dirty once again. They sell, okay? Bubba's pit crew sold. They give him a slow stop, and on top of that, he also gets an uncontrolled tire penalty. Just a disaster pit stop. I saw a tweet on Twitter that said that Bubba Wallace's pit crew should be nicknamed the Ice Cream Machine because it never works. Of course, making reference to Bubba's sponsor McDonald's and how McDonald's ice cream machines never seem to work. Yeah, 2311's pit crew, Bubba Wallace's pit crew. Let's call it the Ice Cream Machine. They never work. that really sent me on a little bit of laughter. Outside of that, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr. got speeding penalties. On the restart, once again, it's Larson versus Kurt Busch. It's round 2 this time. Larson hits the wall and he keeps it going, but he keeps it going. I lost count of how many times Larson hit the wall during stage 3, by the way, and once again, just like I said with Chase Briscoe earlier in this race, if this was a Gen 6 car, Larson would have blown a tire, like not a left rear tire, but a right front tire. Larson would have blown a tire by now if this was like the Gen 6 cars, but once again, Gen 7 composite bodies, gotta love them. So, once again, like I said, Toyota, in this part of the race is where Toyota really flexed their muscle and they came to play as a whole. Larson, he tried as he might, he couldn't pass Kurt Busch, and Kurt Busch kept leading. By this point, like, Kurt was the best car of the race. It was pretty apparent. Kyle Busch eventually passed Larson for second. Denny Hamlin, finally having a good race since his Richmond win at fourth. Christopher Bell in fifth. Martin Truex, after a left rear tire issue and a speeding penalty, he managed to claw his way back into the top 10. And Bubba, after that penalty, he had managed to rally back into the top 15. But both Truex and Bubba were moving up fast. They had really fast cars. Kevin Harvick, once again, he was all over the place in this race. He had another save, and they threw a caution once again after he had saved it. This time it was for possible fluid, but it was like the second time NASCAR had done that. Like, no one was in absolute danger of hitting Harvick, and Harvick kept the car straight. It wasn't like he spun out. It was like a sideways save where he was like almost perpendicular to the racing surface. He saved it, but they threw a caution because of potential fluid. In my opinion, that's just bullshit. They just threw a caution for nothing. Although to be fair, they were pretty far into that run. Maybe NASCAR just wanted to, not want another driver to blow a left rear tire. So, I mean, I get it, but it was still a really bullshit caution. But on the pit stop, Kyle Busch wins the race of pit road, and him and Larson restart 1-2. On the restart, Larson passes him on the inside lane, and this is another thing that I saw throughout the race. The outside lane was king throughout the race, but Larson made what was supposed to be his winning move on the inside. So it was now the Kyle and Kyle show with Kurt Busch in third. It was Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Kyle Larson, three absolute wheelmen battling for the win. Kurt Busch eventually picks off Kyle in second, and with 8 laps to go, he pinches Larson into the wall. Or at the very least, it seemed like when you look at the replay, Kurt Busch just, he ran Larson. He just ran Larson wide, and Larson, he just tried to answer back on the outside like he always does. And his interview, Larson said that he didn't. That Kurt Busch didn't put him in the wall. He was just trying to, overdrive it, typical Kyle Larson stuff. But yeah, he pinches Larson into the wall. Larson, he can't do anything at this point. Kurt Busch is the better car. He pulls away and he wins at Kansas, the 11th different winner this season. He winning with the Jordan brand, and I really love his winning interview. In order to win like the GOAT, we had to race like the GOAT and play like the GOAT. I just love that for Kurt. And he has now won. The cool part about this is that Kurt Busch, he has now won with 4 different manufacturers. If you remember, he started his career with Ford at Roush, and then he went to the Blue Deuce at Penske. Back when the Blue Deuce was still the Miller Lite number 2. And then after that, he had those winless years with Phoenix and Furniture Row Racing. And then after that, he came back with Stuart Haas. That was now with Chevrolet. He won with that. And then he went, Stuart Haas Racing. They switched to Ford. Then he went to Ganassi, back to Chevrolet. And then now he is with Toyota 2311. And it was also a really emotional win too, because if you guys don't know, he was driving the number 45, and 3 days, Kurt Busch's win at Kansas, it came 22 years and 3 days after the death of Adam Petty. And this is a really emotional story that came out after the race. Before Kurt Busch was announced as a second 2311 driver, him and Denny Hamlin, they had asked Kyle Petty for permission if they could use the number 45, because in the NASCAR world, the 45 is considered Adam Petty's number. So if you want to run the 45, it's usual it's not really a rule, but it's really out of more of a respect thing for the Petty family. Kyle Petty gave him the blessing, and he said that Kurt Busch is going to carry on the legacy of the 45. He gave him his blessing, and now Kurt Busch, he really delivered with that slick Jordan brand paint scheme as well. And once again, Kurt Busch wins his one race a year at a track that he has never won at before. If you remember, this one Kurt win a year trend back to 2019 when he won at Kentucky. Then in 2020, he had never won at Las Vegas. He won at Las Vegas. And then 2021, when a lot of people thought that the streak was gonna be over, when it looked like he wasn't gonna win, had a slow start to the season. He got hot during the summer and pull together a string of good results. And then he won at Atlanta to lock himself into the playoffs. And now he wins at Kansas. Kurt Busch has this one race where he randomly looks like the best driver out there. And this is really great too, because after the first five races, it seemed like nothing had gone right for Kurt Busch as of late. So hopefully this win manages to shake off some of the struggles this season, since this rough streak of races actually took him down, put him outside the top 20 in points. So he definitely needed that win. And like I said, the playoff bubble bloodbath is on, because he is the 11th different winner now. There are only 5 playoff spots open now, and right now, as it stands, Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, Truex, Almirola, Christopher Bell. Yeah, those are the 5 guys that will lock themselves in on points. But if you also look, there are also guys like below the cut line, like Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, and Daniel Suarez, to name among a few others that I could easily see stealing a win from the competition. And I don't know which it is, but with how random this season has been and how much parity there has been, we're still 13 races in, and there is no clear best driver this season. It seems like this could be the year where we could see 17 different winners this season, like 17 different winners that are actually Cup regulars, and I wouldn't be surprised if that count goes up to 20. But once again, like I said, this was Toyota's best race as a whole. I mentioned 23-11 with Kurt Busch winning. Bubba Wallace managed to climb back up to 10th to get all 6 Toyotas in the top 10. Joe Gibbs Racing, they finished 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th with Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Martin Truex Jr., who managed to get back up to 6th. Also, another guy, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., finished 8th for his 3rd straight top 10, turning his season around after just one top 10 and every other race he got finished at outside of the top 20. He had only one top 10 at Fontana. Now, Dover, Darlington, Kansas, he's got a streak. He's riding a streak of 3 straight top 10s. Once again, turning his season around. And like I said, Ford, a complete no-show. Austin Cindric was the highest finisher in 11th. But that isn't indicative of who ran the best. Like, in my opinion, Ryan Blaney was the best running Ford. He was the only one of the Ford camp that showed like consistent top 10 speed. And again, this is ironic because Ford had the least amount of left rear tire failures. But yeah, Jamie McMurray was great in the booth. He was really insightful. Basically, anybody who manages to keep, Clean Boyer in check, or at the very least make Clean Boyer seem less annoying in the booth. Like anyone who plays off of Clean Boyer really well is gonna get approval in the booth, because I'm really noticing that Clean Boyer is starting to get a bit going a bit overboard and annoying in the booth. I've seen a few people say that maybe they should bring back like Larry McReynolds as a 3rd guy in the booth. They should bring back Larry Mack. And while that's a possibility, I also like the idea of having like a rotation booth with Mike Joy and whoever else. But I feel like the broadcast booth would be better if we just had like Mike Joy, Larry Mack, and then like the 3rd guy would be like Clean Boyer can be a part of that like rotation broadcast. But again, I feel like it's too soon for me to for Fox to explore that, because Clean Boyer is like just in the 2nd year of his multi-year contract with Fox. So I don't know, but that's just a suggestion that has been floating around, and I kind of agree with it, because again, I'm getting a bit tired of Clean Boyer in the booth. Not gonna lie. But yeah, 1.5 mile tracks are must-watch TV again. This Cup race at Kansas was really exciting, and the Gen 7 is a huge reason for that. Because when at a track where usually like every 25 to 30 laps there is a tire failure, and a lot of people are comparing this to like, I saw a few people comparing this to like the 2008 Brickyard 400, but the difference between that race and this one is that the Brickyard 400 was like everyone playing it safe and not wanting to make passes out of out of fear that they could destroy the tires. In this in the case of this race at Kansas, yeah, there was a lot of those left rear tires were on a timer, so to speak, but the racing was awesome. There were especially towards the end, that battle between Kyle Larson and Kurt Busch, there were a lot of moments where it looked like Larson was gonna spin out and just take himself out, if not both of them. That finish was really exciting, and it's really got me wondering if the Gen 7 car, because we're going to the All-Star race next week, and the All-Star race is at Texas, and NASCAR fans have hated Texas ever since the repick back in 2017, but I'm just saying, if there is a car that can fix the racing at Texas, it's this Gen 7 car, because the Indy car, they raced at Texas earlier in the year, like a few months ago, and the racing, from what I heard, the racing was pretty decent for Texas, like NASCAR standards, for like Texas Motor Speedway standards. The racing was pretty good for IndyCar. So who's to say it won't be the same for NASCAR again? I'm kind of looking forward. Even if I'm not a big fan of Texas Motor Speedway nowadays, or like the racing there, I'm kind of looking forward to see how these next gen cars are going to race at Texas, especially when $1 million are at stake. But as far as this race at Kansas goes, I'm going to give it a B plus for my letter review from this whole weekend. Again, the Cup race carries much of the weekend. I was gonna give it an A minus originally, but I'm gonna stick it on B plus because once again, those left rear tire failures also they really messed it up. I can't give it any more than that. Also, the truck race, well, it wasn't much of a barn burner. I would say it was just mid. I'm not gonna say it was boring, but it was just a race that happened. As for my driver of the day, to me, I'm going to go with the guy that won. It's clearly Kurt Busch. He and this 2311 team, they definitely needed this win. Hopefully, this win is the trigger for not only the 45 pit crew, but also the 23 and the 11 and the entire organization as a whole. Because, seriously, those 2311 pit crews are absolutely atrocious. But anyways, that is it. Goodbye.